probably think your bicycle is just this fun little lifestyle accessory, right? A wholesome, eco-friendly way to get a sweaty back on your commute, or, a weekend toy for hipsters in overpriced spandex. Well, wrong. I'm here to burst that bubble. In this explainer, we're going to see how our innocent, cute little bicycles were actually forged in the fires of a literal, terrifyingly real apocalypse. They owe their entire existence to starvation, catastrophic climate collapse, and just sheer, desperate human misery. So buckle up, because the history of the bicycle, yeah, it's not a sunny ride in the park. It's a cynical, bloody masterclass in human survival.
Okay, let's dive into this by jumping way back to April 1815. Humanity is just minding its own business, finally recovering from the Napoleonic Wars, when the largest volcanic eruption in recorded human history decides to just casually hit the reset button on planet Earth's climate system.
Mount Tambora, over in Indonesia, violently blows its top off. And we are talking about an explosion that ejected 38 cubic miles of rock, ash, and toxic gas directly into the stratosphere. This massive debris cloud wrapped around the globe totally blocked out the sun and instantly lowered the Earth's temperature by over 5 degrees Fahrenheit. It completely and utterly wrecked the global ecosystem. And this right here brilliantly illustrates the absolute butterfly effect of misery. The very next year, 1816, literally became known as the year without a summer. It was a total, unmitigated climate disaster. We're talking about crops withering in the fields across Europe and North America, torrential freezing rains, global famine, and get this, literal snow falling in New England in the middle of July. Nature just completely turned off the heating. So the crucial point here is this. When the crops fail, the oats fail. And when the oats fail, you have a massive, society-collapsing problem on your hands. Why? Because the horse was the absolute engine of 19th century transport. With no oats, the fuel for that engine is just gone. Prices skyrocketed. The horses either slowly starved to death right in the streets, or the starving humans simply slaughtered and ate them. Overnight, humanity was catastrophically stranded.
Section 1. Enter the Baron's wooden plank.
Now, what exactly do you do when your primary mode of transportation suddenly becomes your dinner? Well, you improvise. Enter German civil servant Karl von Drais. While everyone else is panicking, Drais decides to build a piece of furniture with wheels. Behold his majestic creation, the Laufmaschine or running machine. Guys, this is what innovation born out of unadulterated desperation looks like. Napoleon raided the grain, the sky was literally full of ash, the horses were all dead, and Drais essentially just threw his hands up and said, "Fine, I guess we'll just push ourselves." Seriously, just look at the sheer objective absurdity of the engineering specs here. This thing was an absolute beast. It weighed nearly 50 pounds, constructed entirely out of heavy wood and iron. It had absolutely no pedals, 0 gears, no chain. And the brakes? Yeah, the brakes were your incredibly expensive 19th century leather boots frantically dragging in the mud. Yet, despite looking like a medieval torture device specifically designed to ruin your spine, it actually worked. On June 12, 1817, Drais took it out and rode for 13 kilometers in just 1 hour. He proved that a human being, powered by nothing but their own legs pushing off the dirt, could move at a blistering 13 kilometers per hour without needing a single horse. Section 2. Rich hipsters ruin everything. Because humanity operates on a very strict cycle of tragedy followed by extreme annoyance, any practical invention born of famine is immediately hijacked by obnoxious rich people with entirely too much free time. Coachmakers in London ripped off Drais's design and rebranded it as the hobby horse. It became an absolute sensation for London's dandies, basically the wealthy, trendy 19th century equivalent of modern hipsters. They bought these 50-pound wooden planks as massive status symbols, spending the modern equivalent of $800 just for the gimmick. And of course, because these fragile dandies couldn't possibly ride their expensive new toys on the rutted, muddy roads meant for wagons, they took to the smooth pedestrian pavements. Naturally, they immediately started running over innocent pedestrians like bowling pins. It caused such an absolute public menace that these machines were legally banned in cities worldwide. I mean, everywhere, from London to New York to Calcutta. Banned. Let's take a look at the timeline and see how this all builds up. By 1820, the climate finally recovers. The sun comes back out, the oats grow, and humanity immediately abandons the running machine and goes right back to exploiting horses. The fad is dead.
Poor Karl von Drais, the man who quite literally saved mobility, dies a ridiculed, impoverished alcoholic in 1851. And the whole concept of a two-wheeled vehicle just hibernates, totally ignored until the 1860s.
Section 3. Bone Shakers and Death Traps. Fast forward a few decades, and humanity decides to try this two-wheeled thing again, kicking off an era of design that actively felt like it wanted to murder the rider. In the 1860s, they finally figure out pedals. Brilliant, right? But they attach them directly to the front wheel of a stiff, heavy wooden frame with iron-rimmed wheels. The ride on cobblestones was so violently, spine-shatteringly uncomfortable that the public literally named it the Bone Shaker. Then logic completely leaves the building. They wanted to go faster, but because the pedals were stuck directly to the hub, the only way to cover more ground per pedal stroke was to make the front wheel bigger. So they made the front wheel the size of a literal Ferris wheel. This created the penny farthing, the ultimate towering status symbol for Victorian men with fragile egos and apparently zero survival instincts. I mean, the physics of this machine were a certified nightmare. You were sitting incredibly high up, and your legs were physically trapped under the handlebars. This meant if your giant front wheel hit a tiny pebble or a little rut in the road, your forward momentum instantly catapulted you head first into the unforgiving Victorian pavement. It was a literal death trap. Eventually, thankfully, the engineers decided to stop killing their customers. In the 1880s, we finally get the safety bicycle. They introduced a chain drive to the rear wheel, which meant you could have equal-sized wheels. Add in John Dunlop's air-filled pneumatic tires to stop your bones from shaking, and the diamond frame, and we finally had a machine that didn't require a pre-signed last will and testament to operate. Section 4. The Feminist Freedom Machine. Now, here's where this explainer takes a really beautiful turn. This mass-produced, safe piece of engineering accidentally became one of the most massive, disruptive weapons for female emancipation in history. Women realized they could just hop on these things and go wherever they wanted. Suffragists like Susan B. Anthony openly praised the bicycle, famously calling a woman on a bicycle the picture of free, untrammeled womanhood. It offered unprecedented independent mobility. No need to hire a carriage, or worse, ask a man for assistance.
A man, the traditionalists, absolutely lost their minds. They panicked. You see, you can't exactly ride a bicycle in a 40-pound Victorian dress. So the new woman simply ditched the heavy restrictive skirts and suffocating corsets and started wearing scandalous bloomers, just so she could pedal her new freedom machine. A mechanical plank with wheels essentially destroyed Victorian dress codes overnight.
Section 5. The Ultimate Climate Irony. Which brings us zooming back to the present day and the incredibly bitter, almost poetic cynicism of human progress. Because history heavily plagiarizes itself. Look at this recent data out of Germany. E-bikes are doing massive heavy lifting for our modern infrastructure right now. They aren't just toys, they are acting exactly like cars. They're replacing a staggering 40% of direct car trips and eating up 60% of what would otherwise be car mileage. They bypass traffic, they easily go up hills, and they actually replace massive combustion engines.
Just look at this perfectly, hilariously circular history. 200 years ago, a literal volcanic climate apocalypse starved our horses and forced us onto human-powered two-wheelers just to survive. And today, our entirely self-inflicted, slow-burning climate apocalypse is forcing us right back onto them. We spent 2 solid centuries polluting the sky with fossil fuels, only to realize Baron von Drais actually had the right idea way back in 1817.
So, I leave you with this final, highly irritating thought. We already have the exact machine needed to save our cities and massively reduce our emissions. It's been sitting right in front of us for over 200 years. But will we actually use it? Or will we let local protests and our utterly bizarre, irrational hatred of painted bike lanes doom us to repeat the exact same history? Think about that the next time you feel like complaining about a cyclist.